guys. Welcome back to Tech Bytes on Twitch. We're going to hopefully finish up some of our chatbot today to hopefully get something working. And then we can do some of the tweaks that we talked about and continuing and publishing it to CI/CD platforms. Of course, we're going to do that. Now, just to do some of the, typical starting out kind of things, don't forget that Nikki is on there. She's going to moderate. She's going to ask questions. She's going to do things. So no worries if you have questions. I'm going to be checking in with you guys as well. So no worries. So Nikki, make sure you saying hi. Hi, everyone. Hi. So we're going to get started today. What are we going to do today? Well, if you've been following along with what we have been doing, you will know that we are going to build an interface and the data service to actually talk to Lex. Now we're going to try to do this quickly and hopefully to get some things going, right? So, are you guys ready? Nikki, are you ready? I don't see her saying she's ready, but I'm going to think she is. All right, so let's get started. So I'm going to switch over my screen to Visual Studio because, let's get into the code. So Visual Studio. And I obviously already have the solution up. And where we left off, if you remember correctly, was we were about to build the data service or the data layer that was going to talk to Lex and Cognito. Now I'm going to actually do something, I'm not going to say not right, but something that I actually don't want to do so that you can see it. And then I'm going to pull it out and do it right. So what I'm going to do is probably put the Cognito in here, but if I have time, I'm actually going to pull it out and we're going to use the Cognito Lex library we built in the previous show and then use that. Another thing I would love to show you, and if we don't get time today, we definitely will do it in next episode, is how to take that Lex library, Cognito library that we created, push it out as a NuGet package locally so you can test it and things of that nature. So you can have that as a part of your project without pushing it out to NuGet publicly. So if we have time, I'm not sure if we will have time to do that, but we'll definitely do it at the next one. And then of course we're going to cover other things. All right, so we're in the code. I hope you guys are ready to get started. I'm ready to get started. Okay, cool, ready. I love that. All right, so let's get this going. Now, we have our interface, if you remember from last time, and so there's a reason for the interface. First of all, I'm going to use DI to do this. The second reason for the interface is I can do this so that if I have multiple either intents or multiple things I want to do with this service, I can have different classes to interact in the same way, and I'm just loading the interface. You guys know this is not anything that's like really rocket science over here that I'm doing. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is obviously make this interface public. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. And so I want for my Lex interface, obviously, to do what? I wanted to talk back and forth to Lex, obviously, but there are a couple of things you need to know about Lex. The first thing is Lex allows you to go back and forth either via text, like typing, like, written text, or via voice. So if we're building an interface, we should probably build it so that any class that inherits from it will do that. Another thing we probably should do, which I always do, I hope you guys do as well, and it's not going to be a sync enumerable, it is actually going to be disposable. I always try to make sure any class that is going to instantiate, use memory, do anything, always has the opportunity for the garbage collector to clean it up appropriately, to dispose of it. Let's do the right thing here. And since this interface is going to tie to real concrete classes, by exposing iDisposable, I'm doing a good thing here and make sure I'm cleaning up behind myself. Now this is C#, not C++, so I don't have to do as much cleaning up behind myself that I used to have to do, but it's always good practice just to do it. So we're gonna do it. All right, so we have the iDisposable interface. That's great. I need to make sure then I add my actual Lex class. We already added those via NuGet. So we're going to add my Lex model there. And now, as I said, if you don't know a lot about Lex, we'll talk through this as I type. Lex has two things that you can return. You can either return a post text response or a post content response. And A post text response is exactly what it sounds like, right? It is going to be for, posting the text back and forth. And then we can have a post content or a stream response. Well, your post content response, depending on how you want to do it, that you're going to send a stream in and either get stream back or get the context back. So let's actually put this in practice, because I'm sure what I just said totally was confusing, but we're going to fix that. So I've added the Lex model here. So what I want to do, first thing, I know that these functions are they're asynchronous functions, the way they're made. So I know I'm going to need a task to return that. And typically with this, I usually would return generic. But since this is specifically for the Lex service, so if this was a generic AWS service that I was calling multiple AWS services, I actually probably would do something a little different here. But since I know I'm going to return stuff that related to Lex, I'm going to do that. Oops. So let's do that. So let me just so you can see that. As I note, there are two things I can return. So I'm going to create a request and I want back a response. Make sense? So for the text, I want to get a response back. Obviously these are async. So I'm going to do that. Let's see. I want to send, I don't know what to call this. You guys are better than me at this. Let's see. Send, I don't know, chat by text to Lex, because I can't think of anything right now to call this. I'm too horrible about naming things till I think about it afterwards. So obviously I need to have a Lex session ID. It's what's going to actually identify the session of Lex, a unique one. And I obviously need to have the actual text to send. And that'll be our first one. Here's another thing. I'm actually going to overload this because Lex allows you, and we talked about this in the previous sessions, to send back session attributes that may have not a lot to do with what you posted back and forth, but you want to save these because this is data that's already been processed, and maybe it's the price. And the price is not something that is being stored in a slot in Lex, but obviously it's really important if we're ordering flowers. So I want to save that choice and what the cost was coming back and forth. And if you look at the previous sessions, we played around with this already. So I want to make sure that if I'm also chatting to Lex, I also have a function that if I have attributes that are already out there, that I can use them. So I'm just going to overload this and do, same thing here. Lex session ID. I'm going to do a dictionary, and it'll just be string and string. That'll be easy. And this will be Lex session attributes, if I could type or spell today. And then we'll still, of course, we need to still have the message to send. All right. So we have that going on. Great. I'm going to not implement these today, but we're going to implement them later. So let's go ahead and make some interface or calls to text by voice to Lex. And then this will be a little bit different, but I'm going to copy this. So instead of sending text across, what I will be sending across this time will be a stream. So stream, I'll fix that. And let's see, this is voice message to send. Yeah, I know it doesn't like that, and I'm going to tell you why. You guys already know why. It's because I don't have a library up there, but that's why I love Visual Studio. I can just do that. So, task, same thing. Let's be lazy here and start copying some stuff. Typing takes too long. We want to get to the meat of this. All right, so stream. We could copy that too, Tara. Copying is good. And I will just take this. We'll overload this as well. So I'll take that. All right. We are good with our interface. And we'll need this also for dependency injection because I want this service actually also to take advantage of ASP.NET's dependency injection as a scope service that will be around. So this interface will help me do that. All right, great. We have our interface. Any questions there? We are 10 minutes in. Everyone's good. You guys are awful quiet from what I can see on the stream. No questions. Everybody's good. Okay, we're going to go forward if you say so. All right, so since everyone's good, let's go to the actual code here then. All right, so let's go to the actual concrete class. I obviously now want to inherit from my Lex service. And it says, okay, you don't implement disposable, which obviously I want to do that. So I want this to implement disposable, and I'm going to take the easy route out and say I can implement the interface and implement the interface with dispose pattern. And that gives me at least, the template to my things to be there. Right? So good so far out there. You guys are really super, super quiet. So I hope we're following along so far. We're going to implement 2 of these, like I said. Yes, no, maybe so. Hearing some squeak of something out there would be good, which I don't. Okay. You guys are super quiet, so we're going to go for it. All right. So since we have that, let's go to implement these. Implementing is good. All right, so I have my interface made. That's great. Now I'm going to do the text one. Obviously, that's the one we want to do. So let's go ahead and take that away. We don't want to throw something not implemented just because it's not implemented. We're going to implement it now. All right, so what are we doing? We're implementing this. So, okay, so the first thing I need to do, if I take this session ID and post the Lex, I have one step that I haven't taken advantage of yet. So let me just do that now. I need to make sure that, remember, we have our options class, and that is going to give us the information to how we are going to authenticate and how we're going to call this. So I need to have a constructor here. Let's do that first because that'll be really important. And in this constructor, I want it to take in that options class. And obviously the reason why I want to do that is because, why do I want to do that? Is because I want this to automatically have this class instantiated and I can use it and get the data from it. Again, good old DI. So I'm going to take advantage of the options class. It doesn't like that. And why doesn't it like that? Of course, because I need a library there, but I'll put it there in a minute. AWS typing is, a talent. And we'll just say this will be AWS options because, again, I'm going to do that quickly. Now, obviously, I want, once this comes in, to save it somewhere for this private reference. So we are going to go ahead and have options, and we'll just do that. Make it easy. All right, when I have this come in, this is where I'm actually going to get my values. So I'll just put a placeholder init lex service here, or with a function. We should put it in a function, probably clean it up. And like I said, I'm going to do this by hand today, but really we're going to clean this up and use the actual Cognito library that we built before. So now we have the checks, we have the service. I'll initialize the service in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and implement my call to Lex. So let's scroll down here, get some more real estate. Hopefully you guys can see it. I'm going to take this out too. So the first thing I will do here is let's get a response and a request going. Text request And we're going to name this one, I don't know, Lex Text Response. I'm so great with names. Aren't I creative? And then this will be obviously Lex Text Request. Are you guys following along? Awful quiet out there. All right, so we got those. Great. And what I need to do now is I need to actually create a new request. So I'm just kind of going to do it a total lazy way because I want to make sure we get through this. So I know that in this class, obviously, for when you're creating a new post text request, so this is a request that is going to go to Lex, that is actually going to send data to Lex. There's a couple of things I need to do, right? I need to obviously pass it in, well, what intent am I talking about, right? What bot am I talking about? What's the alias of it? Because I can have different versions that are aliased differently. And as you know, we have done that. I need to pass in the name, the alias, the region would be great. And most of those things I'm going to get from our AWS options class that, we built in the former one to get that injected in there. So that being the case, let's do that. So I love, so bot alias. And here, remember, I have my options class here, and that's what's going to pass in. I have the values for, I have an error here because I just realized I put that up there, but I didn't assign it. You guys didn't, usually you guys catch me on doing silly stuff like this, but you didn't. So let me change that because I totally just caught that. Just now caught it. All right, there we go. All right, so for AWS options, I then want to pass in my bot alias, name, region, all the good stuff. Oops. Text. Oh, why am I doing that? I want the message to send. Usually, you guys are good about making sure I don't do anything stupid. User ID is going to be my Lex session ID. Okay, and I think I'm good. So at this point, I have this going, right? Any questions before I continue? Of course, like I said, Nikki is out there to help you guys. Okay, guess not. All right, so we're going to keep going. All right, so I have what I need there other than putting the semicolon that I need there. My mouse is doing something weird. All right, so I have my attributes there. Now, there's something I don't have here that you guys should notice. I talked about session attributes. Well, obviously, if I'm going to save these back and forth, I need to have them to be saved and I can translate that back and forth. So if I'm passing these in, I should probably do that as well. So let's do this. We'll do private dictionary string, and we will call this Lex session attributes. All right, so the last thing to finish this off should be my session attributes, and they'll come from here. Okay, so I should have everything I need to complete this call. Great. Now I want to actually then make the call. So we're going to do, again, the right thing here. We're going to do a try catch because you wanted to catch the error and not have the thing bomb and come back and everyone thinks your app sucks. So let's do the try catch here. So what I want to pass back is my Lex text response. I'm going to use this sync await nomenclature. So there's something missing if I'm going to do that. I need to make this an asynchronous function, which means I need to change my interface to do that appropriately. I'll do it in a minute. So AWS, await AWS Lex client. No, I need a client here, and I haven't created one. So this is what I will do with my init service here, because I need a client. So let's define a client quickly. Private AWS. Nope, not that one. Lex. Oh, goodness. I actually don't need that. I'm being lazy. Let me make sure I have this up here. I don't. So let me add it. Instead of typing that all the way out, let me add that library. Okay, now I can go here and say Lex client. So AWS Lex client. We're obviously going to have to instantiate it with some stuff, but we'll do that. So let's see. We're going to wait. Oh, I got to type faster. Lex client. Post text, because remember we're doing this where we're passing in text, and then we're going to pass in I just realized I spelled this crazily. We're going to pass in this request. Oops. Okay. If it errors, then we want to trap that exception. And what can we do with this? Let's just throw a bad request exception right now for it. But we'll do something more creative there than just that. So let's just throw a bad request exception. New is what I need there. New bad request exception. And what we'll do here then is, let's see, we will, I guess we'll just right now, just for the whatever, we'll just pass the error that came across in that new exception. Mouse, where are you? Did I lose you? There you are. I'll just pass the full thing. We can customize that later. All right, so we're going to do a try catch there, pass the thing. So the only thing that's left here is I need to return the Lex text response. And that is it. This function is just going to be kind of like a flow through function. So all I'm going to do with this one is when this comes in, the Lex session attributes, and I could of course done this totally differently, but this is me thinking off the cuff right now. I'm going to pass in the Lex. So let's say the attributes didn't change and you just wanted to pass it that way. Whatever you want to do it, but I'm just going to return await chat by text, and then I'll just pass in the Lex session ID and the Lex. What did I name it? I think I said message to send, right? Yep, message to send. See, check by text, message to send, return, await. What does it not like? Oh, I can tell you what it doesn't like. I don't have an async. Voila. All right, we'll implement the voice ones later, but primarily this is the main crux of what you need to do for your data service. Now the last thing we need to do is, obviously I have a Lex client, and that's lovely and divine, but what I don't have is I haven't instantiated a Lex client at all. So I could put it in my constructor, which I don't really like to do, but you know, we for this session, and I'll clean it up and put it in a good one, because I really don't like putting stuff into a constructor that I can reuse or do other things with. But for the most part, I'll put, no, you know what? I have 5 minutes. I'll go 5 minutes over, but I'll just do it so that we can see what's going in here. So I'm gonna initialize Lex, and in here, this is where I'm going to take my Lex client and do something new. The first thing is I need to, because I'm going to get my region. So service endpoint or service region endpoint maybe. All right, so I don't know if you know this. So the endpoint is obviously a class, and I'm passing in a string of the endpoint. So what I need to do is convert that string to the endpoint to the actual class here that it needs. So to do that, all I need to do is there's a function from the region endpoint that is like get by system name. And so then I can pass in then that options bot region. Lex bot region. Here it is. Now I have that. I've already updated my options class, my config with the appropriate Cognito pool ID and the region endpoint. So what I need to do now is actually create credentials. And I haven't defined this, but I'll do it. Time is flying. Now, remember, I'm actually going to, again, for time's sake, I'm going to put this in this actual function. But I'm going to clean this up and actually put it in the correct function afterwards. So I need to add a data service, NuGet data service here, which, again, we're not going to actually do that for real. We're going to take this out. We're going to actually use the library we created for Cognito, but for time's sake, so you can see the code, I'll put it here. Quickly get this library, SDK, Cognito, Cognito identity. Yep, that's the one I want. I'll let it do its thing. While it's doing its thing, any questions out there? Okay. All right, so it's doing its thing. Great, we had that in. Let's go back quickly to our service. And now that I have that in, I should be able to do Cognito. Great. And now I want to do AWS credentials. So AWS credentials. All right, great. Now that I have that created, I will just need to do a new Cognito credentials. I'm going to pass in my Cognito identity pool, and then that service endpoint that I just created. Okay, we're good with that. And now we just need to instantiate Lex. Putting a semicolon is good. Init Lex. So AWS Lex client. I'm going to do a new Amazon Lex client. This should look really easy now. Credentials. Service region endpoint. Okay, so we should be finished. We have initialized Lex. So I'll just put this function here. So we're going to initialize Lex. We're going to have our service endpoint. We're going to pass these things in. Let's say, right, we got that done. We're going to chat text by Lex. We have our request. All right, looks like our data layer is done. Last thing with my no minutes to spare is that we are going to update our controller. So let's update our controller. Then in the next session we'll be ready to run. And I'll just put a few things in my controller here because I know we're out of time, but let's just put some things I know. The first thing with this Lex Chatbot controller that I want to do, did I actually name my, well, it doesn't matter. We'll tie that to it later. All right, so I need to do a couple of things, and I won't be able to do all of this because we're a little bit out of time, but we'll pick up with this later, and then we'll be ready to run. But the meat of what you've done at this point, your state of service for Lex is ready. So I will just kind of start this, and we'll finish because the all we would need to do now is just update our controller to talk to our view and run. So I'll just put some stubs of what we need here. I am going to actually have my Lex service, and the reason why I'm doing read only is because I'm going to make sure when it comes through, it's going to be instantiated only once, and obviously only in the constructor of this controller. I'm going to need the session because if you remember, we did where we can track things in the session, saving it. So I'll have a Lex user session. And then I will have a dictionary. And this is where I'll track the Lex section data. So that'll, each time the browser refresh, they'll still have everything that should be there. So private. So let's do, and then I'm going to do a list of actual messages. So what did I call it? My model is called chatbot message. Okay, so I need a list of type chatbot message, and it'll give me an error there because I need to add that to the model. And we'll call this chatbot messages. And then we'll need some keys. So these will be my default keys for these. So we'll see, I'll have a message key, which will be, this is how I'm going to refer to it. And let's see, we'll do another string because I'm going to be lazy right now. That'll have my bots. This is how I'll refer to it. Key. You'll see why I'm doing this in a minute. I'm all about reuse, lazy programming, instead of rewriting it twice. Data. And then my user session ID, which I will get when the session comes in. And I'll just string empty that. Okay. So our controller at this point, we're about 5 minutes over. I'm going to do one more thing just since I'm just a little bit over. I'm just going to go ahead and just do the constructor so you can see what it will look like. So the constructor here should be, and I'm just going to pass in, again, lovely dependency injection, AWS Lex service. And what did I name that service? So it's set once in my controller. All right. This is, we're actually almost at the end point of really seeing what we need to have done there. I'm going to just add this using here. So all of our code is right. Any questions today? We're literally at the end. At this point, I have to add a call, action result call from the view, and we will be able to run this puppy. The next session, what we'll do is we'll run it. add the things with the view, and we'll start to then talk about how we then prepare for our CI/CD pipeline. So I hope you all to join us. But we are done for today. So any questions? Did we go too fast? What else do you want to see? I'll obviously post this code out onto the GitHub repo for the session, and we will have this cooking with gas. So any questions, guys, out there? Questions? This is your time before we end. You guys are awful quiet today. Not used to you guys being quiet. Wake it up. All right, so the code is ready. We're raring to go. Next time, join me. All we have to do is update our view, and we will have a functional bot. And this is going to be exciting. So next time, we'll finish out this controller, update the view, and then we'll talk about our prep for deploying this in CI/CD pipeline. We won't probably get a chance to deploy, but we will have a working bot. We're going to test it. We're going to update our Cognito library, and we're going to be cooking with gas running to see this bot work. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Join me next time on Tech Bytes. And of course, these are recorded, and I will post the code on Twitter for you guys to see. Thanks again. See you next time.